It's the following day. Not as cold as last time, but it is quite damp. Let's get this job finished and see if it's going to work. Really, the last fiddly thing I have to do is refit the distributor. So I have to rotate the engine around a bit further to get it to the right point, and then we'll be figuring out all of this good stuff. I'm not in the mood to do this today, but needs must. As per the instructions, we've rotated everything around to 8 degrees before top dead center, which is where that line is. That lines up with this side of the marker. Next is fiddling with this, which we sort of put in about like that, and then you rotate it as it goes in. I'll just do it on camera and then you'll see. This is roughly how you set it up. So this sits at 45 degrees, like so, and then this sits at this position, as per the diagram in the book. I then put that in as straight as I can, and it should just bring the rotor arm around to the point it needs to be. Now, helps if I take these off. I have a bit of a sore throat from yesterday. I got a bit cold. That's the distributor back in. You do have to be a bit careful. There's an O-ring in here. The one that's on is good, so I've not replaced it, but they do tend to leak quite frequently, which then leaks down onto this spark plug. Great design. When you push it in, the rotor arm spins around to about this location, and all I need to do now, I'm going to rotate this back to the point where I made the lines on the casing with the marker pen. That should set the timing about where it needs to be. I might need to tweak this a little bit once we get it running, because I've had the head off and back on, but it shouldn't make too much difference. Yeah, and don't push the thing all the way home, else you can't get these nuts on. As it is, they're not exactly cooperating. Let me just show you. So you've got the stud here, which is in the head, but when you try and put the nut on, it physically can't fit if you've got this all the way home. I didn't want to do that. So I'm going to find where that washer went, and then I'll put this nut on. Found it. It managed to get all the way over to the engine mount. Not sure how. There we go. And you have to do these up with a spanner, but you can't use a ratcheting spanner because there's no space. So that's fun too. I'm going to tighten this up. And then we'll start it and see. If I need to adjust this, I just slacken these off and move it, but if I start it and these aren't tightened up, it can rotate the housing and then knock your timing off. I wonder how I know that. Good enough. Then reconnect the electronic ignition wiring and the vacuum hose. Don't go around that. It's not the tidiest engine bay, this one. That's just how they are. And then distributor cap. Screwdriver. I don't have to check the points gaps because there are no points, and honestly the electronic ignition kit, it irons out a lot of the issues when it comes to actually finding the sweet spot. So you do pretty much fit and forget, and for I think it was £30 from AccuSpark. Not sponsored, that's just where it's from. Readily available online everywhere. Yeah, so now plug the spark plugs back in, and I've labelled all of them. I use little dots on there because then I can't confuse what's what, and it just makes it quicker. I've not got to think about which one goes where, you just plug them in. 1 and 2, so this must be 3. Or sometimes what happens is the dots have worn off and you've not noticed, so now I have 2 1s and a 2. Ow. When it comes to figuring out which firing order it is, this is your diagram, and let's pop this out. So on here, 4 you would expect to be this one or this one. And on my car, 4 is that one. Which is weird. I followed this diagram. I followed the diagram in the book here, and the way this is done, when you look at the actual distributor cap, these longer ones are at the back. So I have to assume 4 and 2 are the rear ones and 3 and 1 are the front ones. So with that in mind, that's how this is now done. That's not how it was done when I took the plugs off, so that means they must have been in the wrong order, which is a bit strange because the car ran without any problems. Next thing, battery and coolant, I think. Right, battery's connected, everything's on that I can see to put on. I've not put any coolant in yet. I'm just going to see if it'll fire up. If it does and we have no problems, I'll stick some coolant in. Helps when the battery terminals are tightened up, which I forgot to do. Hopefully it'll behave. Well, that wasn't great. So now I have to figure out what's wrong so that I can put that right. Here's an odd one for you, and here's something I hate about working on engines. Sometimes problems appear that I don't understand, that I'm told shouldn't happen, and they happen anyway. This dimple at the top lines up with, you can just see that hole there. So I've got that roughly aligned, so I know that it's correct. Yesterday, I went through the trouble of making sure all this was aligned, the cam belt went on fine, no issues. It bit me, so I've had to do some field repairs to myself. It's putting up a bit of a fight, but we'll get there, I'll win. I am stumped on this one. I've had this cam belt on and off a few more times. I've figured out what was causing part of the problem, which is that as you align the belt, if you don't keep the tension just so on either side, the pulley does move one tooth out. However, I managed to get it to a point where the pulley hadn't moved. This mark and the mark on the crank pulley were both in the same location. The belt was on nice and secure. I tensioned it up to make sure it stayed where it was. I have watched the engine turning over with the camera to check the belt's not slipping, it's not jumping teeth, it doesn't appear to be, as far as I can tell. If the belt has stretched, maybe? That's about the only thing I can think at this point, so I don't know. I'm going to order another belt and give that a go, because it's potential that the belt's stretched, although it's brand new, so it seems unlikely. And we'll just have to see how we go. The theory on this then. I can get the timing belt to go where it should go. If I'm careful, I can keep the camshaft pulley in place. There's no way of manually locking it, unfortunately. So if you're careful, you just keep an eye on it, and once you've got the timing belt in the place it should be, you then get the tensioner in place to keep everything where it should be, give it a few rotations by hand, and then you can try firing it. Having given it a few rotations by hand, I found that the timing appeared to be staying where it should. I double checked the distributor and the spark leads, and they're all as correct as they should be. However, after some cranking, the timing sounds like it gets worse. So I went back and checked. The gap gets larger. Now, the only thing I can think that would cause this is a stretched belt. I don't know how else it could do it. It's definitely not slipping teeth on the belt. It's not jumping out of its location on the pulleys. So that's really the only working theory I have. It's possible, because it was so cold when I first fitted the timing belt, I've stretched it without realising. One of the perils of working in the cold. I'm going to order a new belt and fit that and see if it fixes it. If it doesn't, I have no idea. And this is why I don't like working on engines. Because if I ask for advice on what's gone wrong, I'm going to get a dozen different answers, including "they don't do that." That's one of my favourites. I'm a little bit disappointed about this, to be honest. It's not gone well. But it could have gone worse, so there's that. These are my two timing belts. This is the new one to go on, and this is the one I've taken off. I might have found the problem. This belt feels weird. I can't really get it across on camera, but I wasn't sure if it was me or not, so I passed Pat the two belts and he said this one feels kind of wibbly, and it's got this sort of almost like a spongy feel to it. Some of the teeth as well are slightly compressed looking compared to this one, so I think it must be a bad belt that's caused the issue. It's a new belt, but of course I don't know how long it's been in storage. It's the correct type. 5024 is the one for the Princess, which is the same as the new one here. I've not had a problem with Gates belts before, but I suppose I'm having a problem now, so I'm going to fit this new one and hopefully it'll stay on time. I think what must have been happening is this one must have been stretching out or jumping a tooth or something. There's definitely something wrong with this belt. I've got all my timing marks where they need to be, and the first thing I'm noticing with this new belt is the teeth on the pulley line up with the teeth on the belt much better. I can also tell that it's going to be the usual nightmare to fit. It hasn't got any stretch in it at all, which is good, but it does mean it's a very tight and very difficult fit. There's no dirt on the pulleys. I've inspected them and there's nothing to clean off, so I don't think it was dirt pushing the belt out of location. I won't film putting the belt on. I'm going to be using some naughty words, I think. Well, that was a battle, which is good. These belts were always a nuisance to fit, and the one I took off didn't actually fight me that hard. This one fought me as much as I expect them to. I've rotated the engine several times, so we've gone through the full combustion cycle for all 4 cylinders. The timing is not wandering off. I've not got it on perfect time right now. I'm just off the marks, but I have fiddled about with the tools and the timing isn't walking that one extra tooth now. That's fantastic. That kind of proves it must have been an issue with that belt I took off. So hopefully this new one will solve that problem. And I do have another spare belt. I bought 2 just in case. So if I need to come back and do this again, I can. Plug leads back on. Auxiliary belt back on for the alternator. And then we'll see if it actually wants to fire up. I'm having a problem with this one. I've got the belt on. That seems to have fixed that problem. I've followed the instructions to set the timing for the timing belt. I've got it tensioned up. I followed the instructions for setting up the distributor. I've got that set where it was before when it was running. The trouble is, when I start the car, it's as if the timing's off, and I don't understand why. But have a listen. The other problem is the battery's getting flat now as well. The issue I had with the timing marks running away from one another, that's gone away. I've put this new belt on. Whatever that problem was is resolved. I have to assume that was the old belt. But you can hear it's not firing when it should. And I know that's a timing issue, and I think it's an ignition timing issue, but I don't know how to fix it. This is the diagram for the plug order, and when you set the timing, the rotor arm does end up in line with number 1. And as I understand it on here, this is number 1 here, and this is number 3, and then 2 is behind this one, and 4 is this one back here. Thought I'd bring you inside the Princess for this. The sound quality is a bit better, and we're not out in the cold. The Princess is now running. This is a very good thing. However, I've not got through the testing period yet, so there's still chance for it to go wrong. Not going to count any chickens. I do at least know what some of the problem was with the issue I had. It had blown the head gasket, but it had done it in a weird way. Now, whether or not the cause was that the head bolts had somehow backed out or bottomed out or something like that, I don't know. Whenever the torque settings were checked, they were all correct. So as far as I'm aware, that side of it's fine. The head gasket I took off had shrunk on the side that was affected. I've never encountered that before. That's a very strange problem. What I'm not sure of is whether the gasket shrank and that caused the head to blow, or the bolts maybe weren't torqued down quite correctly and it allowed the head gasket a tiny bit of room to shrink. I have no idea. I had been over the head bolts several times to check the torque setting on them. They kept coming back correct. I'd had them out and put them back in again. Not all at once, because I didn't want to unseat everything. Just to make sure things weren't bottoming out. And no, nothing really flagged. So I have to assume it was a bad gasket. I also had a weird timing issue, and that was entirely down to a bad timing belt, a brand new one. It happens. Occasionally you get faulty parts, and that timing belt has been stored in the garage for a while, so perhaps the garage isn't a good place to store belts. I don't know. The good news is the car does now start, it does run, I have driven it. It's a little bit lumpy when you first start it up.
But then the fuel in it is several months old now, and I found that modern unleaded only seems to last about 6 months or so. I think the fuel in this one is about 4 or 5 months old at this point. So I think it's probably just that the fuel's bad, because once the car is warmed up, it's fine. I don't have any of the issues. I have had that problem before when the car's had a protracted layup period. It does not really appreciate not being used. Now it's a case of building trust back up with this thing. I have had this car as my daily driver several times in the past, and it's been a reliable enough car that I would just hop in it and go places. But given the issues I've had with the engine over the course of the last year, and they've all been just silly things, my trust in its reliability isn't entirely where I want it to be. So I'm going to have to drive it around and use it as a regular car for a bit, and just build that trust back up, deal with any issues it's got. The Maestro needs the welding doing. There's a few other jobs I would like to do that aren't vital for the MOT, so I think I'm going to put the load onto this one for a bit while I sort out the Maestro. And that will also allow me to move the MOT dates to something a bit more pleasant than December, which would be nice. I do not like winter MOTs, they're no fun.
Just taking the old lump for a test drive, and I am delighted to say everything seems to be okay. It's running at a decent temperature. Once it gets up to temperature, it's fine. While it's cold, it's not entirely happy. I think this is down to the old fuel that's in it. Haven't put any new in yet. Happily, the coolant leak down here from the pipe was just the Jubilee needed tightening up. That's stopped. The warmer it gets, the more I drive it, the better it's behaving. This is very, very common with this car. It does not like being stood around, it likes being used. You can see the gauges are all sitting pretty much as they should do, which is nice. It's charging properly. You know, the clock's the wrong time, I've not set that. There is still more to do, obviously. It's not 100%, I think the timing might be slightly off, but again, that could be down just to the bad fuel that's in it. Overall though, it was a very confidence-inspiring drive. I've put enough miles on it to re-torque the head bolts, or check the torque of the head bolts at least. So that will be my next job. I'm not seeing anything amiss yet. Well, I'm pretty happy with that. It's running again, it's working properly. We got to the bottom of what was wrong with it. So now it's a case of building trust. Now I need to make sure that it stays as it should be. Just keep an eye on all the gauges and all the levels and all that kind of business. And hopefully we'll have another decent chapter of it behaving itself. And hopefully we're not going to have these daft problems I've had. I do know from the run that I've just done, the tracking is just a bit off. Not sure why, but it is. I also need to get a new spare tyre. I did have a flat and that needs replacing. I don't think the tyre can be repaired, annoyingly. It needs a good clean. It's filthy inside and out, but I'm happy. I don't know if you can tell, but I am actually really, really happy to be driving this car again, because this is my favourite car ever, as daft as it is, and it's a joy to be behind the wheel again. Although I will say the Maestro is a hell of a lot easier to drive, and a lot less grumpy first thing, so yeah. It's nice to have the choice. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Do comment and like and definitely subscribe and all that sort of thing. There'll be more to come. A lot of the work on this now is cosmetic. I need to wait for the better weather. But hopefully I'll see you in the next one, which will be Tuesday, I guess. Bye for now. Just a quick addendum, weird problem. It's all running fine, head bolts retorqued, no issue. However, my hazard warning lights have stopped working. So we'll put them on, and there's nothing coming on the dashboard, no clicky. Nothing on the indicators. Yeah, dead. Then, what is my interior light doing? How it... What? What? The fun never ends. It never ever ends.